Greeting fellow modelers, here another Caesarean plane model, but this time very special. It's the Hawker Blackburn Buccaneer, an incredible model that I modified really severely. So let's see how I did it. So here is the Blackburn Buccaneer. This is a repaint by Brent, and you can see it's in the Operation Grand Base scheme. And there are three aircraft that I'm doing in the series: this, the Tornado, and the Jaguar. So here we're doing the forward fuselage that we're going to cut and form. Now I want to just thank all my Patreon sponsors who made it possible for me to bring this to you. And you, my fellow viewers, who tune in every weekend as much as you possibly can to see what I keep up to date. Your like and subscribe really help bring this channel together. I want to say I appreciate you so much. So here we are forming the forward fuselage. I just love the Jaws theme, the shark tooth at the front. Now, here's the thing. Do you know that the stablemate of the Buccaneer was actually the Hawker Harrier? Go look it up. That's incredible. Similar company. It's just that you don't hear the name synonymous with the Buccaneer. Now, the Buccaneer in general carried a crew of two, was almost 64 feet long or almost 20 meters, a wingspan of 44 feet, and guess what? Its gross weight was about 13,000, almost 14,000 kilograms or 30,000 pounds, and it carried, that's its empty weight, and it's carried its gross weight more than its body weight, its own body weight. So here you see I'm forming the fuselage nose area, what will hold the radar in real life. And all the tools you see me using, you can find in the link in the description below, and you can get your tools. Here I'm putting in joiner clip. Now, the Buccaneer, the equivalent of it would be like from the French, the Dassault Intendard, the Grumman A6 Intruder, and A7 Corsair from the Americans, or even the F-105 Thunder Chief. And for the Russians, it would have been the equivalent of the Sukhoi Su-17. But here, it was just very interesting how I do it. So now that we did the front half of the fuselage, we're going to now go in and cut out the area that will hold the cockpit. Now, Brent did a cockpit arrangements for the P-51 Mustang that I built, and ever since then I got hooked on doing cockpit. So here we have cut it out using our sharp X-Acto knife, and now we're going to put seating and the cockpit area in. Now this area came from also the P-51. I just modified slightly to fit in the area of the Blackburn Buccaneer. It would be cool to see if one day in the future you could have a separate line item like for cockpit available as add-ons. That would be so cool. But here I'm just putting it in, and it looks really, really good. There you go. So I just printed two of them and put them in. And now we just lock them in place. So this is scratch build, and I'm just showing you that it can work. I just don't say this is exactly how I do it or I have a template. So here I've put in extra joint tab like reinforce, and this will hold the main fuselage area. Then I'm using the cake decorating tool to just make sure the panels are even, and then I paint the edge. Always paint the edge. It makes your model look so much better. Now we're going to put the rear half on now that we've got the front half done, and it's just a matter of just being careful and being mindful how you do the rear half. But all the parts fit really well, and I was grateful for how it came together. Now, I read some of the comments and I find it really interesting. Actually, funny that at time when you're doing your build, you also let this run in the background. So it's like building well with a fellow friend, or just just static in the background. And I find it interesting and hilarious. But you know what? However you learn, whatever you want to do, I just want to make sure your weekends are okay here. Here you see I'm using the largest one in the cake decorating tool to form the curve. Now here's the thing. Don't sleep on the cake decorating tool. They make paper carry curve that makes the model look almost like plastic. There you go. And you see I'm taking my time to just round the panel. It won't buckle if you take your time. As long as you don't do it too much, and it will look good. Trust me. So here now we're doing the tail with the air brake, that that famous looking air brake. And now we're going to just put in a joiner, just overly thick, overly engineered, that will hold it in place properly, and we're good to go. Love how the model come together. It just really looks good. Hats off to the designer. I know that Bruno and Brent really outdid themselves with this one. Brent, especially with the recolor, and Mods and Bruno for the design. Thank you so much. You can visit them. This model I got on eCard model, so you can check them out. Always remember also, once you're finished with it, get into the habit of always painting your model. And now let's put in the tail hook. It's just really interesting how the aircraft did a lot to make sure that they don't suffer from metal fatigue, and it lived its full life. And here it goes into place, looking really good. I wonder what it would be like if I had built it extended. Maybe in the future when I do models, I build them with the extension. So let's do the engine. So the beauty of this aircraft is the curves. I mean, the signature style of the Blackburn, the Hawker family at times is the compound curve that their aircraft tend to carry. A sort of grace to them. Of course, you see me always painting the edges and putting it together. This is wonderful. And here now you see I'm going through great lengths of how to form the rear area where the engine outlet would be. If you need to pause the video at times and rewind it and look at it again, do so, because it took a while to figure out how to build the rear area, but you know what? It did work. I think emphasis was placed on improving the aerodynamic performance at slow speed, such as takeoff and landing. So that's why you had the boundary layers that and the blowing slots that was visible on the leading edge of the aircraft, the air brake area on the underside of the stabilizer. It was just incredible. And here now you see I'm doing the engine inlet. You see I'm doubling and reinforcing the fan blade and now the engine exhaust. So one of the main reason I'm doing this is that more or less you have a guide how to build it if you want to tackle a kit. So you sort of know where the parts go, how the parts are basically formed, and you're good to go. You do not have to follow every single step, but I find like just doing this really makes me feel good to say, okay, I figured out some of it, and maybe this can help you out there. You can let me know in the comments if this really helped. There's sometimes I get discouraged when I see um, the effort that I put in, and even though it's out of love, there's a part of me that wish more people would see this. A matter of fact, a lot of people do. I guess sometimes I'm trying not to get hooked on how many people, numbers, and stats because it really would kill it. Let's put this model together. So here's a trick I learned. We are going to cut a scrap of cardstock and we're going to put it along the inside area here where the engine pods would be. Now, this will tightly and firmly give a surface area that will make our engine seat very well. So once we put them in position, we then just wipe off the excess glue and then we're good to go, just like that. And if you want to reinforce it, shortly after this, I use a little bit of super glue and it helps. Now let's put in the Bombay pod. And here you see I'm putting in the Bombay pod, forming it, and you notice a lot of time you see me using the cake decorating tool. Trust me on this. The investment is well worth it. Does not cost a lot relatively, but it really does help in how your model will look and how it will turn out. Contrary to popular belief, paper, because you see it flat and cut in usually rectangles or squares or whatever, you think that it can't fold or bend or carry curves. No, it can. It just depends on how carefully you do it, the time you take. It will come together. Now, here's another thing. The Buccaneer has been designed mainly to be a maritime nuclear strike aircraft, literally. And the code name for the air to surface missile that it would have carried was called Green Cheese. But that weapon was cancelled. I wonder why. So here you see I'm putting in the spine now, and we're using the same technique as what we did for the engine pods. Now, here's it. All the care should be taken when forming the fin. Just like what we did with the engine pods, we do with the fin and take our time. It's not a race. So the time you take to form it, this will make your model become so much better. And also, I've fallen into the trap that I hear a lot of plastic modelers talk about, where they just have two hobbies. One is just collecting models, and the two keeping a stash and not building. So it's like collecting, keeping a stash, and building models. So two hobbies in one. So here I've had collected enough models to last me a lifetime. Small investment, but you know what? It's time to just build them out. The spine here, just take your time. You see, I'm using the toothpick, and with the toothpick, I'm able to keep it aligned and straight. Toothpick does help. Get yourself some toothpick. Here, I'm just going to now put in a toothpick that will maintain the integrity, strengthen the fin, and then we can glue into place. And remember, we are very good because we have the spine on the inside that will hold the structure together. And paint everywhere, really make your model look good. So now let's put in the seating. The seat here now came from a kit I have. This is the F104. I got it from the GPM kit. I know it's a long time kit, but it works well for me. And you can use any other kit that you have that you can shrink to a similar size. Now, if you have a 133 scale kit, you can reduce it by punching in, I think, about 46% of the original size, and pretty much you'll have a 100 scale, 1/72nd scale. So pretty much that's what I did here. And now this extra piece that you see I'm adding here, it is just for the shielding for the navigator that's behind, or the weapon system operator. So that's what you see I'm putting in here with a scrap of plastic, usually the ones found like on shrink wrap or from envelope. Now let's put in the aerials that are located on the spine of the Buccaneer. These are the small things that really bring your model to life, so do not ignore them. And here, the light on the top, I use glue, and then once it dries, I then paint it. And let's put in the aerial on the fin. I know it looks small and insignificant, but it's these little details that will bring your model together. Now, let's do the wings. The wings are very curious, like I said. I love how, I think it was Bruno who came up with it. Need to find out. But just the wing joint was really intriguing how he did it. And here you see it on full display. Now remember, rule of thumb, building wing, building stabilizer or fin, always when locking the parts together, press against a flat surface. All the trailing edge, press against a flat surface. That way you prevent your wing from warping. It really does help. So here I'm just painting the edges as usual. So this now is the inboard wing panel. And then we slot the two halves together and pretty much lock it up. So that way it forms the crank and we're good. Now, this part here was just to strengthen it. So I'll just put toothpick in position and then I can slide the wing over it and glue that in place. Locked up, really looking good. And once it's locked up and things look good, I then put in those small strakes at the front. Now, amazing thing about those strakes is how it helped produce amazing lift, right? And it's called boundary layers control, I think it was, because once the wing go over it, it gives it almost 50% more lift than if it didn't have it. That was amazing. The tail, fin, and stabilizer now. Here you see we're just folding, putting together. And I know that this video is a bit long. And if you need to take a break, that's understandable. It's not a race. You can build it as you feel free fit. So take your time, watch it in segments. But man, so much work went into this. And that's why it's a special edition for me, because I have a special love for this aircraft. Ever since I saw it, I think it's on the news when I first saw it operating in Desert Storm. And I had the privilege of going recently to the War Museum in London, and I saw it again, and it was a fantastic looking plane. It's one of those times when you see art and functionality blended. And now the part that bring my model alive, the canopy. So here I did the canopy, basically forming it the way we regularly would, harden it with a little super glue, and now you see I'm wrapping the shrink wrap around it, and then I'm using a heat gun. There is an episode, I think 2 or 3 back, that you can check, show you how I do this. This is what I made available earlier on to those from Patreon, and I show in detail how I build a canopy. But this is just a brief overview here that you see me doing, how I get the canopy in. And that's what I do for all the models. So check it out if you need to look on how I do the canopy. Of course, now we apply a little glue to the underside. And then with this, we rest carefully on top of the plastic and let that dry. And this is why I use Alene Tacky glue. I can get the glue done very quickly, dry, and I can cut it out. Now here on the fuselage itself, I put a little bit of super glue and then I lock it into place. The same way how I went about carefully doing the windshield, I'm doing the main canopy. And again, just look for it in the video earlier on. There are a couple that I did a few episodes back that show it. So when I do this now, I'm going to leave it in the exposed position. That's why I spent so much time doing the cockpit. It really helps. Fun little thing. I do these commentary in one take. So whatever mistake you hear, it is just the real me that you're hearing. And I hope that you do not find it off-putting. This is just us as modelers, as real family here, showing you how I do the thing and how it works. Now let's put in the fuel probe extension. Pretty much it's straightforward. When you cut and fold, I then reinforce it using a toothpick that has been stripped. It's thin enough, and then that is inserted into the main fuselage. You know, this is where I look at the Buccaneer and I go, it's a very deadly aircraft. One of those that looks almost like a bumblebee. It looks, for lack of a better term, quote unquote cute, but it can be also very devastating. Here we go with the fuel probe, looking good. Let's put in the landing gear doors. And the uniqueness of it, even the doors, when we cut them, we've double, they carry compound curves, right? So it's not a straight piece. And we just mate it because it's contoured to the fuselage where the engine is. And of course, we put in the nose piece and we're good. And just like we do with all our scissor and plane model, we just build the wheel the standard way, like you see here. We just build all the wheels, and then we can go on to doing the landing gear strut when the time comes. For the landing gear strut, we're going to cut it according to what they say, you know, the simple fold to strengthen, and then we glue and cut out. These parts here are the struts themselves. Now how we do it is that we take a toothpick to roll the struts so they're pre-rolled, and then we get our solder wire and we get different sizes. I think it was 0.8, but they come in different size. I usually have 0.6, 8, 1. And then we put the struts there, and then we take our time to make sure once we get it in position, we strengthen it. We just putting on a little super glue, it really helps strengthening it. So here you see I'm just dabbing it a little bit with super glue so it won't buckle. Then we just widen it slightly with curve, and then we put the wheels on. Nose wheel, then the main wheel, and then we glue into place. And take your time to make sure the model is level. And look at Google. Look for the 3 views in Google. Look how the aircraft generally is, and you'll get an idea. So let's just finish up our model. We're just putting on the fine bits and bobs of the model, which is the pitot tube, just the small items that really bring your model alive. It really helps. And here we putting in the wing pylons. I want to just say, you know what? Models like these really bring joy to me because, again, we're doing this and we have to remember that in the beginning, it was simply a flat piece of paper you would find around the office or in a craft store, and look at what you are going to do to it. This is amazing. If you have made it this far in the video, I want to thank you so much. Just comment, let me know where you're from, subscribe, like the video. These are the things that it not only encourage me, but what I found out is that it'll cause YouTube algorithm to say, oh, I can recommend this to other places so that other people can see it. And that's a beautiful thing for me. As we go along, we put on our pods. We have the guidance pod, we have the jamming pod. We're now putting in our pitot tube. What's interesting is that early in the Buccaneer program, the US Navy had expressed a minor interest in the aircraft, but then they quickly moved on to the development of their similar aircraft, and that was the Intruder. Here you see I'm just putting on now the varnish, oil varnish, and that is matte. And this, my friend, is my Buccaneer. And I love how it came out. It looks really good. The magic of paper. So I want to thank again my Patreon members who make this possible. Without you, I don't know where I'd reach. And thanks for all the encouragement I've been getting from each and every one of you. Until then, my friends, be gentle to yourself, walk good, one love.